In this lesson, I'll discuss social engineering. By the end of it, you'll be able to understand what social engineering is, recognize the signs of social engineering, and how to protect yourself and your organization from it. So my very simple definition of social engineering is to gain some advantage through human manipulation. Now, there are many other definitions out there, but this is the simplest form: to gain some advantage through human manipulation. So, lying, for example. Typically, it's to obtain confidential information. Passwords, financial data, confidential company data. We can all lie, we can all manipulate in order to get information that we shouldn't. Other instances, it's far more serious. To steal money, for example, or to install malware. There's some great examples of this, and I guarantee you, I don't even have to tell you some examples of this because you already know them. You see this every day. One of the greatest ones, and I'm going to have another lesson where I'll show you actual phishing messages, is phishing. So one of the easiest ways to have someone give up their information is through phishing. So a user receives an email pretending to be someone that they aren't. We see this all the time in any company. You name the company, there's been some way that their account has been compromised because of phishing. Generally, the person that falls for the phishing doesn't understand that the message is phishing. So user gives up their password because, quote unquote, the IT help desk told me that my account was going to be shut down unless I logged in to maintain it. This is a classic example of something that one of the ones that phishers usually send to users in hopes that they're going to log into the false website, which is lying to the user to log in. Phone calls. Phone calls are another example of social engineering. The IRS, for example, is never going to call you and tell you you're going to go to jail because you haven't paid your taxes. They will probably send you a letter and then the police will come. That's neither here nor there. Microsoft. Microsoft will never ever tell you that you have a virus on your computer. Don't believe them if you get a phone call that says, "This is Microsoft, you have a virus on your computer," or "Your computer has been hacked." Symantec, I've heard many of these before, many of these phone calls that say, "This is Symantec, they're an antivirus company, and you have another virus on your computer." Another one that I think is pretty funny is your vehicle warranty is about to expire. I get phone calls for this constantly. My warranty isn't going to expire. Or what about, "This is Card Member Services. We have a great option for you to lower your debt." Well, I know that I don't carry any debt on my credit cards, so you're lying to me. Another example of this and how phishers actually get information, or how we do social engineering, is through security questions. Believe it or not, it is not difficult to guess your secret questions from an online account. Most of the accounts out there are going to ask for very specific information, which is very easy to obtain. So what was your first pet's name? You can easily fall for some sweepstakes that asked you for your first pet's information. Where were you born? That's easy to look up. What was your high school mascot? That information is very easy to look up because of social media accounts. You post where you went to high school, they're automatically going to look up what mascot you had. What about your mother's maiden name? That's very easy to look up on public records. If you add questions, it's better, but not foolproof. Like, what is your favorite band? Or what was your favorite band from 1992? Okay, something like that. Something that makes it really hard to guess. Now, what the attackers are going to do with that information is they are going to try to reset your password somehow. So by answering those secret questions, they can get into your account. Let's talk about some very well-known attacks to help illustrate how social engineering works. From ancient Greece, the Trojan horse example. Classic. If you haven't read it or heard about it, look it up. Prime example of social engineering. Somebody wants to give somebody something for free, when in disguise it is really meant to harm or destroy the other party. Another example of this is in 2007, the attack on the ABN AMRO Bank in, I believe it was Switzerland, but I'm not actually sure. Belgium, that's what it was. They got away with $28 million US dollars in gems. Now, how did they do that? They didn't do it actually through technology. They just had charm. They walked into the bank, said all the right things, acted the right way. The attacker was charming, and they walked right out the front door with $28 million in gems. Another good example of this is 2013, the attack on the Associated Press Twitter account. At the time, there was a tweet that went out that said President Obama is in the hospital. There was an attack, and instantly and this was during the day when the stock market was trading, the stock market crashed 150 points within a matter of 3 minutes because of that news. Now, what happened was an Associated Press employee fell for phishing, and they used those credentials to get into the Associated Press's Twitter account and tweet that information out. Another one that you may have also had phishing experience with is the Nigerian prince scams. This is a global epidemic, basically, that costs the world about $12.7 billion annually, because people fall for this fish and send money to this supposed Nigerian prince that is willing to give you a ton of money if you just give him a little bit. There was actually a county treasurer that was put in jail because of embezzlement because of this. The county treasurer stole some of the money from the county to give to the supposed Nigerian prince, and was able to take that money from that treasurer, and obviously it's a scam. The Target breach back a couple years ago is another example of social engineering and phishing. This actually happened with a third-party heating and ventilation company that fell for phishing, and then they were able to get into Target's systems and install malware that sucked the credit card data from their point-of-sale terminals. And another classic example of human social engineering and technology was the hacking group, a hacktivist group, Anonymous versus HB Gary Federal. Back when HB Gary Federal was doing government contracting, they were about to give or leak the names of the anonymous hacktivists to the FBI. And so what happened is they were able to break into one of HB Gary Federal's sites, that stored a bunch of information, and they were able to convince the CEO at the time to give them the actual root credentials of another system, and they anonymous stole all the email from HB Gary Federal and basically collapsed the company. Now, HB Gary is still operating, but not, to my knowledge, on the federal side. Now, I could be wrong, but unfortunately, this was a bad case for HB Gary Federal. Let's talk about ways to protect yourself and to protect your organization. We need to recognize accurate requests for information. If we understand how to protect ourselves and look at accurate requests for information, then any deviation from that could be phishing. So if we learn to, for example, a login page should have https:// your company's address and then /. The phishers and social engineers love to change that first, the domain, to something that looks almost like it. So if you're just looking at that first / before the first /, you're generally safe. But you need to identify accurate requests for information before you give up any information. Chances are there's never going to be any deviations from that technologically through email or through phone calls. Typically, you are going to be the one that is giving that information out when they are not asking. Understand that every link could potentially be dangerous and look closely at those links. Education and repeated exposure to accurate requests are what help identify social engineering or phishing. Two-factor authentication is also a great option if you can do it on certain systems. Two-factor authentication prevents somebody, even if they happen to steal the password for an account. I always use a password manager. Password managers are great to store information and to keep your information separate. One unique password for every site. And remember, it is up to you to ensure that you are not the link that broke the chain in your organization's security plan. Make sure that you are always responding to any little thing that you might see that is not accurate. Make sure that you understand accurate requests for information.